So can Caitlin Clark shock the world? Now she's having the best rookie season we have ever seen. She's made the playoffs. She's got a tough as hell matchup, but can she shock the world and give the Fever a title? Let me know in the comment section below. What are your thoughts? I'm going to bet on Caitlin Clark that I'm going to share with you today, but let me know. Can Caitlin Clark do it? What's up, kings and queens? It's your boy Dan from Daft Previews, and in today's video, I'm going to take you through a couple great looks in every single game in this first round of the WNBA playoffs. Quick recap on the last video. Got some redemption. Went 3-1, 3-0 on player props. Didn't get it done with the spread, but great to be back in the winning column. The playoffs are about to tip off for the WNBA, so getting this one out to you early so we can hopefully prevent some line movement. So we're going straight into Outlier, as we always do. If you're interested in checking out this tool, 7-day free trial in the video description below. You will not be disappointed and you've got nothing to lose. So go ahead and check out Outlier, especially through these playoffs. You're going to need these numbers. We're going to go through this game by game. I've got a couple of good looks in every single one. Being completely transparent with you, haven't placed all of my bets as it stands, but all the research is done and I will be betting these in some way, shape, or form. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. So we're looking at the Atlanta Dream versus the New York Liberty first. Now, Atlanta, they did win their most recent matchup when these teams faced each other, but it was clear that the Liberty did not give a shit about that game, didn't play their starters a whole ton of minutes, and the Dream won their first game after 4 matchups with the Liberty this season. So in the first 2 games, these teams matched up. The Liberty actually slapped them by double digits. The third game, it was the first game after the Liberty lost the Commissioner's Cup. So it was pretty much a letdown spot, but still, New York didn't look great, and they still won that game by 6 points. So for this particular game, I'd be expecting the Liberty to slap these chicks around in their first matchup for the playoffs. Now, it's very important to talk about game script in the playoffs because that's going to make a big impact on the player props, which is why I'm going to be sharing a little game script on every single team. In this game, I think the Liberty run a train on them nice and early. So let's get into these props. The first one that I did like is this one. Bet Nyjah Hamilton over 1.5 3-pointers made. Now, one thing you're going to love about it, there's a whole lot of green on this screen, but what I love about it, it's a plus money play. Plus 165 for Lainey Hamilton to hit these threes. Now, firstly, in terms of the matchup, the Dream do allow the 4th most threes in the competition. Also hit this line in 3 out of 3 games against the Dream this season. 2, 4, and 3 3-pointers made. I think there's an opportunity for more minutes here in the playoffs as teams shorten their rotation. I've actually dived in a little bit deeper and looked at last year's playoff data. But Nyjah Hamilton hit this line in 6 out of 10 games. It proves that she can show up on a big stage. Sabrina at the moment, very happy to let that thing go. This team just drops threes on everybody. They've got a whole team full of 3-point shooters. And for Nyjah Hamilton to play about 30 minutes, probably take 4 to 5 3-pointers, I like our chances of getting 2 here. And it's plus 165. That is so far plus money. I love it. If she finishes this game only taking 2 shots and failing to hit it, then yeah, it was probably a bad look. But if she can get 4 attempts at least, I'd be happy with the result. So, but Nyjah Hamilton over 1.5 3-pointers made. Now, the next look that I have in this game is for Breanna Stewart. Now, Breanna Stewart, I'd say the best player on this team. I'm like points prop here. Over 19.5. You could also get this at over 20.5 for my odds, obviously. But Breanna Stewart, I do like her over. So her recent form is somewhat patchy, given Liberty took opportunity to rest their stars towards the end of the season. But I do love this look for Stewie. I've dived deep into her head-to-head numbers against this team. And looking at what she's done against the Dream, she's covered this in 2 out of 4 games this season. She did average 20 points per game across the 4 games this year. In the games where she went under, though, 17 points and 16 points. One thing that's a key call out here, she only took 10 or less shots, and she also played less than 30 minutes in both of those games. The 2 games where she saw more than 30 minutes, she finished with 25 and 22 points. Now, I looked into last year's playoff numbers, and through 10 games in the playoffs, Stewie played 38 minutes per game, with her lowest output being 35 minutes. In the most recent game that she had against the Dream, where she finished on 16 points, one thing to really keep in mind is she didn't play the second half at all. So 16 points in the first half alone. She was absolutely smoking them. In this particular game, Stewie should see more than 30 minutes once again, and I don't think she's going to waste any time racking up the points. So I like Breanna Stewart Over 19.5, I like. 20.5, you can get that at plus money. That's what I'd be looking at because I'm a greedy motherfucker, and that's just how I was built. But really, I do like her points. I also like her rebounds, but I think points is the better play. And another play that I'm looking at is for Sabrina Ionescu and looking at her under 27.5 PRA. And my whole thought process around this is Sabrina's been a bit of a bitch or a beast. You can see it here looking at her numbers. Same thing with her head-to-head numbers against Atlanta. She's an absolute beast and smokes this line, or she's not necessarily getting close to it. Looking at her last 10, same thing, bitch or beast. She's absolutely murdering it, and in some games, not getting close at all. So looking at the head-to-head form, she's under this line in 3 out of 4 games against the Dream this season. To her playoff numbers last year as well, she struggled in the playoffs. She went under this line in 8 out of 10 games. She's found it difficult to get her shots off as of late, and she's been pretty effective as a playmaker. This Dream team hasn't defended the pick and roll that well, but they have limited points above the break extremely well, and that's where Sabrina loves to score. So I think this is going to be a no-sweat bet, meaning she's going to murder this line and go well above it, or I think she's going to struggle to get close to it. So those 3 players, all from the Liberty. I did look at all the players from the Dream, and I did want to take some for unders. But given the matchup with the Liberty, unders make sense. But this is the playoffs. I think rotations are going to shorten. The Dream's main players are probably going to get more minutes. So I feel like the lines are quite sharp. So I wasn't brave enough to take any unders there for the Dream. But if you've got any good looks for unders in the Dream, let me know in the comment section below. Jumping into the next game, it's the Indiana Fever versus the Connecticut Sun. It's going to be a great matchup, this one. The Fever, they did go 1-3 against the Sun this season, but their only win came after the All-Star break when Caitlin Clark and the Fever really started to explode, going 9-4 in their last 13 games. I think this is a battle of 2 different styles. The Fever play with pace and finesse, whilst the Sun play prison ball, slow and rough. So it'll be interesting to see how the refs officiate this game. I think the Sun are going to rough them up, but there's also a chance that the Fever are going to run their fat asses off the court. So the game script that I'm predicting in this one, the Sun are going to come out on top, and I think they're going to flex their playoff experience. So most of this Fever team have never experienced a playoff game in the WNBA, whilst the Sun, they've been a key fixture in the playoffs for years. So the first play that I do have in this game, looking at Caitlin Clark here, looking at under 34.5 points, rebounds, and assists for CC. Pretty of a brave play, I know, because she's been killing it lately. Now, Caitlin, I think she's going to be feeling the heat in this one. Dejanay Carrington is going to be all over her in this game, and she's going to be tested in her first playoff game. Her form post the Olympic break has been crazy, though. She's gone over this line in 8 out of 10 games, averaging 37 points, rebounds, and assists. However, she did face some pretty easy competition in that stretch. The Sky, who are in tank mode, Dallas twice, and the Spark as well. She does get the toughest matchup in women's basketball against the Connecticut Sun, who have handled Caitlin Clark very well in every single matchup this year. Check these numbers out. She's under her PRA in all 4 games this season, averaging 22.2 points, rebounds, and assists. Her best game against them was post the Olympic break, where she was killing everybody, but she had 19 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists, and that's a game where the Fever won. Now, this Connecticut Sun rank number 1 in points, rebounds, and assists allowed to guards on this season. They're the number 1 team in the league at defending above the break, which is where Caitlin Clark scores 60% of her points. Clark, I think, is going to have some huge playoff games in her career. But will it be in her first ever playoff game on the road against the best defensive team in the league? I don't think so. So I'm going to be brave here, take Caitlin Clark's under in her PRA. I think if Fever get it done, someone like Kelsey Mitchell probably pops off, but I don't think Caitlin Clark's going to get it cranking today. And I'm happy to be wrong on that one. My next play in this game, same game. This is probably my favorite game to bet on this slate, believe it or not. But looking at Alyssa Thomas, and we're looking at over her points, rebounds, and her assists. So it's 27.5. Now, she's only covered this line in 3 out of her last 10 games, but the Sun have been in cruise control post the Olympic break. I think Thomas will be locked in as they return to the playoffs, where she's covered this line in 5 out of 7 games in last year's playoffs. She did average 36 points, rebounds, and assists. She does have an excellent matchup here against the Fever. They do play with a ton of pace, which often results in more points, rebounds, and assists. They allow the 3rd most points and the second most assists to forwards on the season. She's also covered this line in all 4 games against the Indiana Fever this year with 36, 47, 32, and 29 points, rebounds, and assists. Now, her primary play type when scoring is in transition, and this Fever team ranks in the bottom 4 in defending transition buckets. She can also fill up the stat sheet in so many ways. So I couldn't find a particular prop that I'd like from her points, her rebounds, or assists, because she could do it all. And she'd at a rate where she could get 10 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. Picking one was going to be difficult. So if you're betting on Alyssa Thomas, my recommendation here is only bet the PRA. Don't try to get smart with it and bet her singular prop. So Alyssa Thomas, I think she continues to smoke this Fever. A lot of pace, a lot of rebounds, a lot of assists, and a couple of buckets too in transition. The next player that I do like, we're also sticking in the same game, is for Marina Mabrey. Now, I found another plus money play. And I'm looking at her 3-pointers prop here. Over 2.5 3-pointers made, plus 130. I might even take it for 4. Who knows? But she was brought into this Connecticut Sun team to improve their outside shooting. And she has a prime matchup for it. She's played 15 games for the Connecticut Sun so far this season. And she's covered this line in 6 out of those games, right? Not a great hit rate, 6 out of 15. She's had an ideal matchup in 6 of those games, though. And she's covered this line in 4 of them, averaging 3.2 3-pointers made per game. Now, I know what you're thinking. What's an ideal matchup? Well, Mabrey shoots most of her threes from spot up, in the pick and roll, and off ball screens. She takes the majority of these shots from above the break, which is any 3-pointer that isn't in the corner, right? The Fever, they rank dead last in defending spot up shooters. They are dead last at defending above the break. And Mabrey put this on full display in her last matchup against the Indiana Fever, shooting 4 from 9 from downtown. And I like her chances to do it again. You can see it right here. 4 from 9 in her only matchup as a member of the Connecticut Sun. Her struggles in the past were when she was from the Chicago Sky, and she had no one creating offense for her. Now she sees Alyssa Thomas do all this hard work, and she just has to catch it and bomb it. So plus money play, plus 130 for Marina Mabrey to go over this 3-point line. The matchup is perfect. She's cooked them before. Why not do it again in the playoffs? Now, the next play that I do like is for Dejanay Carrington. And I do like her over in her points prop, over 13.5. Now, if you looked at her recent form, not great. 5 out of her last 10, averaging 12.4 points per game. But I've done a little bit deeper analysis, which is probably why you guys watch this. Now, Dejanay Carrington absolutely loves this matchup against the Fever. Not only is she playing against the woman she shares a bed with, Nalissa Smith, but she also gets to take on one of her rivals in Caitlin Clark. Now, Carrington is one of the better perimeter defenders in this league, and I think she looks forward to these matchups with Caitlin Clark. I honestly do. She gets fired up for it. Now, compared to season averages, when she plays the Fever, she gets a slight uptick in minutes from 29 to 32. Assuming to match up with Caitlin as often as possible, her shot attempts also go up, averaging 11. In these matchups, it goes up to 13. Her point production increases from 12 to 17. Now, she's thrived in these matchups with extra opportunities, covering this line in all 4 games this season. Check this shit out. Carrington, she scores a ton of her points in transition, and given the Fever play with such pace, they also turn the ball over a lot, and it's where Carrington often is the first woman up the court. The Fever have to play fast to beat the Connecticut Sun, so I think turnovers are still going to happen. Dejanay transition buckets are guaranteed. So I'm expecting her to see a ton of court time. I'm expecting her to get a lot of easy buckets in transition, and I'm expecting her to cover this 13.5 points, which is also plus money. And you can see all 4 games against the Fever this season, 16, 14, 22, and 19 points. Dejanay Carrington has got it done, and I like the look of her doing it again. Popping the brakes real quick to give you another reminder to check out Boom Fantasy. I absolutely love the app that they have. Their pick and spin feature is like nothing I've ever seen before. It honestly gets me real excited. All you have to do is pick a 2-man entry, spin that damn wheel every time you place it, and you get a chance to 500x your payout. I'm in their Discord. I've seen so many slips from their members who are getting 100x, 250x, 500x. Honestly, you guys have to check it out. They do the same shit that all the other apps do. They discount props, they have no sweat bonuses, their payout structures are similar. If anything, their payout structure is better than Prize Picks. Prize Picks at the moment, 5x. If you do a three-man over here with these guys, they'll give you 6x, the same as Double Fantasy. So it's a really cool app. They're pretty much giving away money right now because they're relatively new to the market. So I encourage you guys to check those guys out. The link for them is in the video description below. And I hope to see you get a 500x payout on one of the tips that I've given you. Now let's get back to the bets. We're jumping into the Mercury versus the Lynx. Now, it's pretty much been Minnesota's league since the W's returned in mid-August from the break, except for the Lynx' last regular season game, which they gave up on. They had already locked down the number 2 seed. They wanted to avoid any injuries. So Minnesota, they'd won 13 of 14 games since the extended break. Minnesota's biggest and their only weakness this season has been rebounding. I think I've said it in almost every video. They don't rebound well. Out of 12 teams, I think they're ranked 10th in rebound percentage and 11th in defensive rebounding percentage. The good thing here for the Lynx fans is the Mercury can't rebound for shit either. Now, Phoenix, they're the worst team on the glass this season, ranking dead last in rebound percentage, despite having that big guy in the middle, Brittany Griner, right? Still can't rebound to save their lives. The Mercury, they've allowed their opponents to shoot the most three-pointers, 34.2% clip. That's 7th opponent three-point percentage. And Phoenix happens to be facing the best three-point shooting team in the league. So Minnesota has shot the lights out all season. They're hitting three-pointers at 38% on massive volume as well, 24 attempts per game. So if you take all that into account, the Lynx, they should dominate the Mercury, sweep this series, which I'm going to factor into my player props. So the first prop that I'm looking at in this game is for Napheesa Collier. Now, I have found it difficult to bet on her this season, but not today. I like over 11.5 rebounds plus assists. From when I actually looked at it, this has been nuked and juiced to the gills. So it may have moved to 12.5, but if you can get it 11.5, I think it's a really good look. I'm expecting Napheesa to feast on the boards in this particular game. She make this line alone just in rebounds, but you get the opportunity to do it with assists as well. So why do I think that? Well, check it out. This graph is green as hell because she smoked the Mercury in all 4 games this season. As a matter of fact, her last 7 games. But the ones this season, 13, 18, 16, and 13 rebounds and assists. The 2 games where she finished on 13, I think is the most likely outcome here because in these 2 games, the Mercury pretty much blown out, so Napheesa didn't have to do too much. So I think 13 is what I should really bank it around. So if they move this to 12.5, I think that's the right line. So you can still catch it at 11.5 at somewhat decent odds. I think it's a good play. Matchup-wise, the dead last in rebounds allowed, and they give it the second most assists as well. She's covered this in 6 out of her last 10 games, so her recent form's not too bad, averaging 11 rebounds and assists. So looking at a slight uptick on what she's been averaging. If she can just do a little bit better than what she has been averaging in a favorable matchup against a team where she's given them the business to in 7 straight games, I like it. I think the risk in this play, though, is the blowout, but I do think it's still a good look. Napheesa Collier over 11.5 rebounds plus assists. Staying in the same game, we're going to head over to Kalia Copper in this one. Now, for Kalia Copper, we're looking at a points prop. And we're looking at under 16.5 points here for Kalia Copper. Now, post the Olympic break here for Kalia Copper, I'll look at the last 20 games. So you can see this massive fall off. But pretty much post the Olympic break, she had 2 good games. Here against Chicago, 29. Then 32 against Indiana. And then she's pretty much looked like shit the whole time. She's covered the line in only, 2 out of her last 10 games. She's averaging 14 points per game over her last 10. She has been injured as of late as well with a back injury. She did make a return against Seattle, but she only scored 4 points on 2 of 9 shooting. Now, the matchup is awful for her, given the Lynx, second in points allowed, and they defend the perimeter players like a wild pack of dogs. She scores a lot in the pick and roll, from the free throw line, and in transition. This Lynx squad is top 4 in defending those play types on the season. She's had 4 matchup with the Lynx this season, scoring 21 and 34 in her first 2. Her most recent 2, 9 and 13 points. To sum it up, this matchup is awful. Her recent form is disgusting, and she's yet to play a full game since she's returned from her back injury. She's found it difficult against the Lynx in their most recent matchups, and I don't see why that changes now. So take the under 16.5 for Kalia Copper. I think she's still banged up, and the Lynx are just going to roll them anyway. So that's pretty much all I had within this game. I wanted to take the under on Diana, but she surprisingly had some good games against Minnesota. I wanted to take an under in Natasha Cloud, but she's had amazing assist games, even in blowout losses against them. So Clear Copper, where I landed on. So she's the girl that I took the unders. Heading into the last game, it's the Seattle Storm versus the Las Vegas Aces. Now, the Aces, they are peaking at the right time. Asia Wilson has put together one of the best statistical performances in WNBA history. The Aces are healthy. Their bench is producing. It's just perfect timing, really. The Aces, they do come into the series with the best scoring average in the league, 86.4 points per game, along with the second best offensive rating in the W, behind only the top seed in New York Liberty. They do have the best assist to turnover ratio and true shooting percentage while playing at the league's fourth fastest pace. So their offense, pretty much a juggernaut. Now the Storm, pretty good on offense, but not like the Aces. The Storm averaged 83 points per game this season. It's good enough for fifth in the WNBA. Their offensive rating is in the middle of the pack. They do play at the third fastest pace. The Storm, they also take care of the basketball. They got the second best turnover percentage in the league. The Aces, though, won the season series 3-1 against the Seattle Storm team. They won 3 straight games after dropping the first. They're yet to play the Storm since the addition of Gabby Williams, so that may close the gap a little bit, but this Aces team is rolling right now. So the game script that I have in mind is that the Aces are going to win in a tight game. I think they ultimately pull away late, but I do think the starters from both teams should see high minutes, so the player props should be a solid look in this game. Now, for me, I'm heading over to one of my favorites. What's her name? Skylar Diggins-Smith. And I like her over 15.5 points in this game. Now, Skylar Diggins-Smith, if there was a Draft Previews Hall of Fame, I think she would be there because I've bet on her so many times this season. I don't even need to refer to Outlier to put the research together for Skylar Diggins because I know her that well. On the road, Skylar Diggins is a scoring machine. And I've spoken about it many times before. At home, she averages 13 points per game. On the road, it goes up to 17.3 points per game. I like this matchup for Skylar Diggins. She scores most of her points in the pick and roll, and the Aces throughout this season were the worst team in the league at defending at it. She's had success against the Aces this season, covering in 3 out of 4 games, averaging 16 points per game. And looking at post her Olympic break, she's been an absolute monster. She's covered this line in 11 out of 15 games after the Olympic break, averaging 18.5 points per game. It's crunch time, and in these more difficult games, Diggins has stepped up. She's covered this line in 2 games against the Liberty and 2 games against the Sun, who are the best defensive teams in this league. The Aces aren't far behind, but I do like Skylar to continue to pile on the points here. So Skylar Diggins, over 15.5 points on the road. Let's go. My next look here, and this one is a lean because I'm not sure whether I'm going to bet this or not. And that's because I'm waiting on some injury news. I need to know for sure whether some people will or won't be playing. But I do like Gabby Williams over 7.5 rebounds and assists. She's seen more minutes and opportunities since Lloyd and Ezi Magbagor have been out injured. So you can't put too much stock into these recent numbers here, as great as they look. I believe Lloyd is a game-time decision with a knee injury. And given it's the playoffs, I'm expecting rotations to shorten. I'm ultimately looking for Gabby Williams to play at least 30 minutes in this game. Now, she's played 30-plus minutes in 6 games this season. Let me show you that. There we go. So, 6 games. She's averaging 8.5 rebounds and assists. She's covered this line 4 times. And that includes one of the games against the Aces where she had 5 rebounds and 5 assists, good for 10 rebounds and assists. Now, the matchup is pretty good against the Aces. They do allow the most rebounds to forwards on the season and the 3rd most assists to forwards on the season. I think the main concern here is whether Lloyd and Magbagor play. If they're out, I absolutely love this play. If they're in, we've probably lost a bit of our edge, and this line is just about right. So I did check, and there are prop lines out for Jewel Lloyd, so it looks like she's going to play. But given the uncertainty, I'll most likely pass on this bet, but I still think it's an interesting look. But knowing me, I probably won't pass on it, and I'll probably end up betting on it. Shit, I just did my NFL video, and I shared a few picks on there saying, I'm not sure if I'm going to bet on it. I've already bet on them. So Gabby Williams rebounds and assists. I probably will bet on these. I just need to get some more certainty around the lineups and her minute projections. But I think this is a really good look. Now, I'm not betting on any of the Aces players in this first game. Pretty much Asia Wilson, her lines are super high. Fair enough. She's been killing it all year. But the Storm have kind of kept her in check, but always getting pretty close to it. So those lines feel pretty sharp to me. Jackie Young, her line's sharp. Her form's been pretty bad, but she's played well against the Storm before, but that was when she was playing a lot better. So I stayed away from there. Kelsey Plum, recent form's been good, but she hasn't necessarily played the best against the Storm, so I stayed away from that too. Chelsea Gray, I think her assist prop is actually a good look, but the odds for it are trash. Over 4.5 assists, minus 150. Check that out. 7 straight games against the Storm. The main ones I care about are the 3 this season, 7, 6, and 5. In her last 10 games, she's also hit this at a 60% rate. So I do like her assist, but at minus 150, hell no. I'm not touching this. So I didn't count how many bets I just gave out in this video, but damn, it feels like I gave out a whole lot of value. So if you made it this far, that means you enjoyed it. So like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. This type of analysis is going to continue throughout these playoffs and through the NBA and with the NFL too. So hit the like button, make sure you've subscribed. And if you're interested in getting on every single bet that I have, there are links in the description for that as well. My VIP been popping off. We're doing all right, about 20 units profit so far in the month of September. And I think after this set in the WNBA, it could be a lot higher. So feel free to check it out, but I'll catch you guys in the next one. Appreciate y'all. Peace.